views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Voices of Women is a talk radio show that gives voice to the personal stories of women. It will inspire women and enlighten men to follow their dreams and create positive changes in their lives. Whether the audience listens to best-selling authors or a layperson like themselves, they'll realize there are others with similar experiences and feelings to their own. This show will give women tools they can use every day, which will empower them to step out of their boxes and create the changes they desire in their life. Kris inspires women to find their voices, speak up, and become leaders of their own life. Everyone has their gifts to share with the world, and it's time for women to work together to bring honor and respect to the feminine voice, which is within all people, men and women. Topics include personal growth, spirituality, creativity, leadership, and divine feminine. Now here's your host, Kris Steinnes.
Well, welcome to Voices of Women in this lovely Friday, our now summertime. I can't believe it's July 1st. And so today I'm going to talk with an author, Morony. She's the author of Done Growed Up, which is book 2 of the Apron Strings trilogy. Now, I don't usually interview authors of novels, so this is sort of a novelty for me. But this book reflects many important issues that we face today, even though it takes place in the 50s and the 60s. I always find I learn from characters in a work of fiction, and I get to experience different ways of living, different belief systems other than my own. So I learn from the characters, and I gain more empathy towards people who are dealing with difficult issues in their lives, just like we all are. And so it gives a new view of the world for me. So it's great to have Morony on the show today. She was raised in Charlottesville, Virginia, one of 6 children, mainly by her family's black maid, during a time and place of segregated schools and water fountains and restaurants and movie theaters that prohibited black customers. Morony's rich characters are drawn from her childhood memories and lifelong experiences, growing up in a household where both of her parents and their maid had issues with alcohol. She witnessed the breakup of her parents in a time when divorce was a humiliating family secret. By the time Mary was 35, she had been married 4 times, divorced, widowed, and the mother of 4 children. Mary is an author who can write about tragedy from the inside and guides her readers through it to compassion, humor, and recovery. She brings Southern charm, irreverence, and wit to bear against subjects as vast as racism and as personal as alcoholism. So welcome, Mary.
Thank you so much, Kris. I'm delighted to be here.
Good, great. Well, first I want to hear your story about your journey becoming an author. What drove you to become an author and write this story?
My life. I have had a remarkable life. By the time I was 35, I'd been married 4 times. I'd been widowed twice. One husband killed himself. One husband died of cancer when I was pregnant, and 2 marriages ended in divorce. Probably because they had a lot of rebounding and things like that. And all that stuff has a way of you get a choice. You can either deal with it and turn it into lemonade, or you can sit around bemoaning the fact that you got a bunch of lemons. So I am more of a lemonade maker than I'm a whiner. So I used not necessarily the stories, but I used the experience and the emotions to write, because it was one thing I was pretty good at.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired you to do the Apron Strings and turn that into a trilogy?
Well, the Apron Strings started off because I had a wonderful relationship with our family's maid, and I had never seen in any of the books that I'd read, and I'm a pretty avid reader, I'd never seen anybody really deal with the whole relationship between a black maid and white children, which, and I hope I'm not offending anybody because I'm never quite sure how you, but I'm gonna just say black maid, and how you don't see that in literature so much. So I decided, well, it's ubiquitous to the South. I mean, lots and lots of people did back then because that was part of the economic system. And so I started writing about the real relationship, and then I got, this is too good just to write that. So I expanded it, and I went to a talk that Catherine Stockett gave at the Virginia Book Festival, and she's the one that wrote The Help, and she relayed a story about one of her talks. A woman stood up in the middle of the audience and said, that woman that raised you didn't love you. She was paid to pretend like she loved you, but she didn't love you. And I went, oh, this is ridiculous. I know that's not true. I absolutely know that's not true. It doesn't mean it wasn't true for some people, but I knew for me it wasn't true. So I decided that this was a book that needed to get published.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the maid in your book, Ethel, is a very lovable character, and you feel that love she has for the family and for the children. And sometimes the children felt more love from her than their parents, which is just kind of reaction to parents, typical children reaction to parents, but because there is the love there, of course.
Right, and I really don't believe it's a racial sort of thing. I mean, I think people love people, and I think the more connected you are with people, the more you're inclined to love them. So I don't think it was unusual that Lottie, our family maid, loved me, and I don't think in the story, I don't think it's unusual for Ethel to love the children she took care of.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did.
Yes. Well, tell us about your life experiences.
I don't think you have enough time on your radio show for all of that.
Well, no, but as we're in relationship to the book and making done growed up. I keep wanting to say grown up. It's growed up.
Well, everybody wants to change the grammar of that.
Yes.
Well, Lottie, our family's maid, was really instrumental in helping me see, first of all, the humor in life and to stop taking things too terribly personally, which certainly has held me in good stead my whole life. So I'm most inclined to find things that are humorous that often other people don't, but that's too bad. It's the way it goes. And also to not take life too personally. And considering all of the trauma I had in my life, I mean, a husband killed himself, another one died of cancer when I was pregnant. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. If you started taking that personally, it could really do you in. So what Lottie's advice really held me in good stead.
Mm-hmm. And that's reflected in the book too, because it's often Ethel who's giving advice to the children. So let's talk about the themes
and the family.
And the family. Yeah, because
so what are the themes of the book?
Yeah, there's quite a few different themes going on.
Well, the major theme in the trilogy is family dysfunction and just sort of living with people and all the rough edges and how life gets to be hard and how you have to get beyond it and the different ways to get beyond it. In the original book, alcoholism and racism were pretty big themes, and divorce, and those were things that I wrote about because I knew how it felt. I knew how it felt to be a child of a alcoholic, and I also knew what it felt like to be a child in a divorced family in the 50s. So those were pretty easy things to do. I also knew what it was like to be divorced because I was that too. So that's how these books are personalized. I mean, the stories in themselves are not real stories, but they're aspects of the stories that I kind of cherry-pick things in my life and relationships and emotions in my life that I would create situations so that I could write about the emotions. And it was highly therapeutic, which was not a plan when I started this off. It was highly therapeutic to be able to write about this stuff and to be able to objectify it. So that was an added bonus to the writing the books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of cathartic for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and a lot of the book takes place in Charlottesville in the 60s, and I imagine, because I'm not familiar with I live in the Pacific Northwest, so it's very different. And one of my curiosity is the depiction of Charlottesville in the 60s, is there still remnants of that now?
Well, I think, I mean, you mean as far as racism is concerned?
Well,
yeah, I think there probably is some of that. I mean, they still have Confederate flags that people fly around here. In some places they have bumper stickers that say heritage, not race. I don't know what they say. No, heritage, not hate. But there's a big deal now because there's a statue in a park in Charlottesville of Robert E. Lee, and Robert E. Lee was the general of the Confederate Army. It's a beautiful statue, and now there's some people who are offended by it because in their mind, Robert E. Lee represents slavery and fighting to keep slavery. And so there's a big there's a bit of a brouhaha about that around because they want to take the statue down, and so lines are being drawn, but I presume that people are going to see clear to see the sense of having the statue stay because history is history.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what about are there families still that have black maids that live with the families and take care of the children, or is that a past?
No, there's still. I mean, people still have maids, and some of them are black, and some of them are Mexican and South American, but there's still black maids, and I know some people that have black maids, and there's still people that have been. I mean, there are black men that have been waiters all their lives that are still waiters, and they work for certain caterers in town, and they are bartenders and waiters at cocktail parties, and you see them all over the place. I mean, you see them at the parties, and everybody knows everybody. I mean, there's an interesting sort of in the bigger part of Charlottesville where it's like the Charlottesville that's the best place to live in USA today. People don't necessarily know that, but since I grew up in Charlottesville and I know a lot of the same people that grew up in Charlottesville, and that whole sort of group of people still know, everybody kind of knows everybody, and it doesn't make any difference whether they're black, white, or green. They all know each other and meet wherever it is that they are.
Okay. Well, we need to take a break now. It's Kris Steinnes. We'll come back and talk more with Mary Morony.
How would you like increased health and vitality? How would you like to avoid the onset of disease as well as slow the aging process? This is all possible through a simple, safe, and natural process. Every day we are either moving toward wellness or away from wellness.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. I'd like to be your partner in achieving optimal health. Contact me now at maryjanemack.com or call 425-392-0659. Visit maryjanemack.com.
Kris Steinnes is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
Do you want to achieve your goals? Do you want to strengthen relationships with others? Do you want to improve your financial status? Colette Marie Steffen is partnering with Mark Kettenbach to bring you an energetic upgrade online experience launching in April. Unfold and develop your full potential. Visit energeticupgrade.com today for more information. That's energeticupgrade.com.
The doctor is in. Tune in to the hit show, The Psychic Love Doctor, with host Deborah Lee. Deborah's life-affirming, highly perceptive reading method has taught Deborah how to zero in on specific problems with relationships, career pursuits, and current roadblocks to success and happiness. Join Deborah Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific, and for a special broadcast the second Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
If you're one of the millions of Americans suffering from anxiety, you probably know how powerless and out of control this emotion can make you feel. This is why it is so important to remember that anxiety is created by your mind, which means that you can learn to use your mind to uncreate it. Hello, my name is Dr. Friedman Schaub. My award-winning book, The Fear and Anxiety Solution, provides you with a step-by-step breakthrough process to understand and resolve the root causes of your anxiety and build a solid foundation of confidence and inner peace. If you are ready to take your power back, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com.
Order your copy of Dr. Friedemann Schaub's The Fear and Anxiety Solution today. Visit thefearandanxietysolution.com for more information.
Welcome back to Voices of Women. I'm Kris Steinnes, and I'm speaking with Mary Morony. She's the author of Done Growed Up. So, Mary, we were talking about, your life experience of living with a maid and feeling that love and having a relationship with your, as you say, black maid, and that's still existing somewhat in the South and it was curious because it was people of color that you mentioned, Hispanic and black people, and it kind of brings up that whole question of even we were talking at the break, like white privilege of even being able to afford having a maid and that kind of thing, and that discrepancy and so let's share a little bit more of your thoughts on that.
Well, in the 50s, for example, it was there was no minimum wage, and so people worked for a whole lot less money. So there was probably a whole lot less. There was less privilege in having a maid than there is now. We also had less. It took more people to run a household too back then, because we didn't have all the time-saving things that we have now. I used people of color because I don't think I know anybody who's white that works as a maid, because I only know about two people that are black that work as maids now, because mostly the people that work as domestics are Mexican, that I know of, are Mexican or South American in some way. And there seems to be, and this is part of what I really wanted to do in Apron Strings, was there seems to be a sense of that there's something wrong with domestic help. And the only thing from my vantage point that I can see that's wrong with domestic help is that they don't get paid enough. Because I think that it's a job that people could be proud of, because if you're taking care of somebody's house, for example, if you are, and I was thinking specifically when I was writing Apron Strings, if you are the mayor's maid, for example, and you have a lot of power in that household, which was part of the reason I created that whole divorce situation in Apron Strings, because Ethel had a tremendous, she was in a real powerful position in that, and I don't want to tell too much because I don't want to have a spoiler here, but she had a tremendous position of power there, and I was looking at the power structure in a family with a maid, and it didn't make any difference whether they were what color. It just, a maid, a domestic help, could have a tremendous amount of power in a family. For example, if you are the mayor of a town and you have a maid, and the maid's taking care of the household, and breakfast is crummy and your shirt's not ironed right, you can be grumpy. You can do, you go off and you make decisions about a town or about, a specific decision that could go all wrong because things didn't go right at home. When things go right at home, people are happier. When people are happier, things go more smoothly and blah, 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 blah. Yes? No?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it makes me think of, this job of maid, it was really somebody who was there, some 8, 10, 12, and in the book they're often asked, will you stay later and pick the kids up from school or put the kids to bed because I've got to do something. They were more than a maid. And so I think, to have that clarity of what a maid is versus someone who just comes and cleans your house for a few hours, that wasn't the role of the maid. They did cleaning, but they cooked and they took care of the kids. They did a variety of things, and almost seems like it needs
mothers.
Yeah, it almost needs a different title than maid, because a maid sort of infers, they house cleaned. They kept the house clean, but they were running a lot of the house. They're almost like a house manager.
Well, that's one of the interesting things to me about language, because things change so dramatically. Back in the 50s, for example, that's what Lottie was called. She was the family maid. So today, a maid has a completely different connotation than it did back then. So if you're taking your or one's view of a maid and trying to apply that to what I'm saying about the relationship I had, it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But the people that I grew up with that were blessed to have a relationship like I had with Lottie are infinitely grateful about it. And they feel like their lives have been expanded. And the reason I know this is because they told me. It's not just I knew some people. I have talked to people since the book came out, and people generally who have had a similar relationship have been infinitely grateful to have their lives expanded that way. I feel like I learned so much more about life than, for example, my mother did, because she had a whole generation ahead of me, and she had a completely different and a very racist attitude about people that I didn't have. I didn't have to, because I rode in the back of the bus with Lottie. I saw how things went that way. My mother's mother would not have allowed her daughter to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
well,
I think it is about race, but it's also just about human interaction. And yes, it's also about economics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is an issue. So I'd like to go into the characters of the book, and first, there's a mother, Jenny, the mother, who's the recovering alcoholic, and we're talking about done, growed up, and also it seems like. Well, first I want to know what character you relate to. Are you the mother, or are you also the youngest girl there, the Sally, I think's her name?
I've been asked this question so many times, and the answer is I'm all of them.
Yeah.
On some level, I'm all of them. I've had either the thoughts or a similar thought to almost every character in the book, because if I don't, I can't make them real I can't breathe any life into them if I don't somehow manage to, or have seen life from their perspective somehow. Jenny particularly, I don't feel like Jenny is a reflection of me as I am as a human being operating in the world, but I felt a real, in Done Growed Up, I kind of felt like Jenny got a real bad rap. And so, not Done Growed Up, in Apron Strings, I kind of felt like Jenny got left in a really bad place. And I thought a lot about how in the 50s, everybody's role models were like Leave It to Beaver's mother and June Cleaver and Donna Reed. And these were kind of perfect women who had tiny little waists and were beautiful and always coiffed. And Jenny was kind of slogging through. She tried to be that way, but she was also slogging through a whole lot of stuff. And she nobody then did, have the advantage of having counselors, psychiatrists, self-help groups. You couldn't talk about your problems. What happened at home stayed at home. You could be beaten bloody, but if you didn't get it on anybody else, nobody wanted to know, and it was okay. Whatever happened behind closed doors happened behind closed doors. So I felt really badly for Jenny getting left where she did, and so that's why Done Growed Up sort of evolved, and that's why I decided to make a trilogy, because Jenny needed to get Jenny as just as a symbol of womanhood needed to get some health and some growth.
Yes, and there's a lot to her character and the things that she goes through, and watching her go through all those things and come out, kind of, there's a sense of healing going through the process. Seeing her process through the book, all of us can relate to. It's things that we've all deal with one way or another, in our own way. And I always loved, and the other character that I really enjoyed in the book was the youngest daughter, Sally. She's always putting her foot in her mouth because she just wants to know everything. She wants to understand everything of what's going on. And there's secrets in the family, and she's out there blurting, so she's a very lovable character.
Well, secrets from just what I've learned in life, because what I've learned in life is that secrets don't serve anybody. Secrets take a lot of energy to keep, and they don't serve anybody, no matter how great or how you think you might be not hurting somebody's feelings if you keep something to yourself or whatever. On some level, people know how you're feeling or what's going on, and secrets just create a buzz underneath the surface or just below the surface that puts everybody off. So that's one of the reasons why Sally's always stepping in it with secrets.
Mm-hmm. And she wants to know the secret, and she blurts out the secret. So people have to. It's kind of like they have to deal with it, and that's good. It's kind of a good role she plays.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not a big believer in secrets.
Yeah. Well, I just found her to be a very lovable character, and so there's also a son who's a little older. He's got all his rage and typical teenage thing, and the elder daughter escapes the family, but then gets in trouble with drugs. So you have these, and there's still, even though this has taken place in the 50s and 60s, it's still current to what people deal with in, raising kids. Well, and we have to take a break now. I'm going to have to take a break, then we'll have to come back and talk more with Mary Morony. We'll be right back.
Get ready to experience Truth Talk Radio with host Deb Acker. Tune in to Truth Talk Radio each Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com to illuminate the truth in your daily life as you experience life, love, and abundance from a whole new perspective. This hit show will leave you feeling lighter and bring you into a place of infinite possibilities every day in every way. Visit TruthTalkRadioshow.com for upcoming transformative topics and guests.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
Awaken to your radiant, authentic self. For over 15 years, Soul Purpose Advocate Nancy Monson has been focused on leading change in the lives of those looking to live their true purpose. She is devoted to supporting people in living a soul-directed life every day. Let Nancy help you overcome fear, worry, and doubt. Visit everydayspirituality.com to learn how Nancy can be your Soul Purpose Advocate.
Are you searching? Looking for a sign? A message you need to hear? From the great unknown, from the most mysterious place that is the most familiar to your soul in the depths of who you are. The universe put someone here to talk to, someone God gave a blessing to, that you may find insight with. TheAngelLady.net. 1-800-323-1790.
Kris Steinnes is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
Have you ever tried to make lifestyle changes but had difficulty following through? Imagine what it would be like to get up each morning with energy, clarity, and motivation to tackle the day. If you want to get past limiting barriers that are preventing you from living your best life, join holistic health and wellness coach T. Carrie Mitchell each month on the Dr. Pat Show. Or visit lifestyle120.com today and start to receive the personal attention you deserve.
Welcome back to Voices of Women. This is Kris Steinnes. We're talking about the book Done Growed Up by Mary Morony. And let's see, I'm forgetting where we left off. So we're talking about secrets and the characters in the book. And is there anything more that you want to add about that before we talk about some other issues?
I think I want to say that what I want to say is that basically what we were talking about earlier, that things seem to have changed a lot since then, but I think mostly they've just gotten things have gone faster. What has happened is that life is sped up. We're still dealing with a lot of the same problems we dealt with when you and I were younger, but because things are going so fast, it just seems like life is more complicated. Well, it is more complicated because going faster makes things more complicated. Just like when you drive, you have to pay more attention.
And we're much more aware of what's going on in the world with the internet and all that social media and everything. We were bombarded with a lot of things that we weren't when we were younger. We didn't, we just had radio and TV, and now we have, our computers, and news is instant. We know immediately when something happens around the world, and I think we're impacted by that, and also that whole speed up feeling that you're talking about. Well, I would love to talk about some of you tackled very sensitive issues, so like bigotry, addiction, and divorce, in your book. And if how have you heard from readers or how it's helped people if they're in those situations? It's been helpful for readers or insightful for them?
I have heard. The book's just been out for less than a month, so I haven't gotten a lot of feedback as far as it being insightful for readers. People do say that they appreciate the little bit I've gotten back is that people really appreciate that I just go at it head on, and it gives them food for thought. I've gotten that sort of reaction. But as far as whether it's helped anybody or not, I haven't heard that yet. I hope so.
Well, I think it helps in the way of watching how Jenny deals with all of this, like dealing with divorce and dealing with addiction, and seeing her progress with all that. It might give people some tools to think about, things to think about in their own process, perhaps.
Well, one of the things I did specifically in the book was it was like a smorgasbord of ways to get help. You can go to a therapist. You can go to you can have a friend who can listen. I mean, there were lots of different ways people in that book got help, and it wasn't just Jenny. Everybody got help somehow, and there were all different ways. And I think it's important to remember that there are helpers out there everywhere. Everywhere. You don't have to pay somebody to help you necessarily. You can get a friend can lend an ear that can give you and just say one word. Like, for example, in the Gordy and Early scene where they're in the garden, and Early asks one question that sort of enlightens Gordy about, oh yeah, why would anybody do that? I mean, people really are out there and they can help. It's really amazing. So I'm hoping that the readers will get that there's more than one way to get help in the world.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you have is that you showed in the book is there seeing them go to other people. You know, if you're having a problem with your mother, not being able to deal with that, that there would be a place where they got help from someone else, whether it was Ethel the maid or Early, who was the maid. He's the maid's husband, right?
Right. Early's Ethel's husband.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was somebody they could go to. And I think that's probably one of the important things, is to develop relationships so that you have someone to go to that you trust is key.
Right, and there wasn't necessarily a teacher in this book that somebody could have gone to, but teachers are some teachers are a source of help. Friends are. Jenny went to AA meetings, that was a help. Jenny went to therapists, that was a help. Ethel tended to be strong and able to sort of muscle through her things on her own, but there was an undercurrent of a really strong relationship with her husband. And Joe had a new agey for the 50s doctor that he bumbled into. I mean, there's help out there.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that we can't do this alone. And Jenny and Ethel both showed that in the first book, that when they tried to just kind of bull their way through the vicissitudes of life, they both fell into a terrible place. So I don't think that we're meant to suffer alone. I think we're meant to reach out to people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to talk about the cultural issues in the book. That one of the things is the difference between privilege and blessed. And one of the really current topics that we talk a lot, is white privilege, and so one of the questions that comes up is, there's a sense of being privileged, or there's a sense of being blessed, and what's the difference in that?
Well, Jenny specifically comes to grip with that in the book, so I have to be careful because I don't want to give anything away. But privileged is, and I'm just going to give you I don't even know I'm going to give you my kind of view on the difference between privileged and blessed, and it's an attitude thing. I think that privileged is a thing where people just assume that this is because they are smarter, better, richer, something. They're entitled to something. So there's a sense of entitlement to it. And blessed is more about, I'm a human being. There's a spiritual element to it. There's not, and gratitude, which I don't think comes with privilege. I don't think people necessarily that feel privileged necessarily have a sense of gratitude. So I think blessed is more a spiritual thing, and it's more about a sense of gratitude, and that it's egalitarian. Anybody can have a blessing. It's not because I'm anybody other than just one of God's children.
Mm-hmm. And what comes to mind when you're describing that is also being humble and honoring of every. Pardon?
Humility.
Yeah, humility, and that gratitude part's important. And there's that term during the Middle Ages of the noblesse oblige. There was a sense of taking care of people versus. I think you're right about the privilege. If you're in a privileged state of mind, is that you're entitled to this, and there isn't a sense of.
I think we live in a very entitled. I think we live in a very entitled age with a very entitled in a very entitled country, and I think and I think if you could pinpoint one place where we've gone way wrong, it's because of entitlement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can even, I don't want to get into politics, but you can even see that in the election process we're going through.
No.
No, we're not going to go there. So another aspect in the book is language. And the use of language is a big part of the book. How does that?
Well, I really love to listen to people talk. I mean, when I'm not blathering away myself, I actually like to listen to people talk. I like to hear their dialects. I like to hear the fact that some people in the same family pronounce words differently, and I just thought that whole thing about how people talk and how words come out of people's mouths is interesting to me. So there are different dialects in the book. I mean, for example, Early and Ethel are both Southern Black and mostly uneducated. And by the way, I hold, if I'm going to hold somebody responsible for that, that would be the white people who were in charge back then, who denied an equal and good education to black people. So when I write in dialect, I write it because I'm not casting aspersions on Ethel or Early. I think Ethel and Early are extraordinarily noble characters. So, but I have been told by my editor that I need to be sensitive to the fact that it might offend people that I write in dialect. But I do write in dialect because I heard dialect as a child. I really appreciate dialect, and I love the fact that people speak differently. So there's that. And then Gordy has a thing with he's mimicking a New York accent, and it was actually a lot of it was play because I just like the idea of the different voices and the way people speak differently.
Mm-hmm. And I know in reading it, like, listening to Early and, well, particularly Ethel, I had to really pay attention to what was being said because this is a dialect that I'm not familiar with, but it was very endearing too because you got to know the character. It was part of their character. And but I really had to read carefully, and I would read it out loud in a way. I would read it out loud in my mind to hear that, to hear that accent, that way of speaking. It's intriguing. It's probably, and because of education system, and now there is more education opportunities. I don't say they're probably still not egalitarian as we want them to be. But I would imagine the language has changed a lot in the South.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I think in some ways it's changed a lot. But for example, I mean, when I was growing up, radio and television commentators all had accents that were regional, and now radio and television commentators all have pretty
the same
vanilla.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
no.
And you know what? I'm
and I think
going to have to interrupt you because we got to take another break. I'm sorry. So
okay.
We'll come back and talk more about this with Mary Morony.
Okay.
Kris Steinnes is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Are you ready for a game changer? Sarah Westall is bringing you Business Game Changers Radio. Sarah brings you leading experts, visionaries, and newsmakers who provide the best commentary on big issues and cutting-edge innovations. Sarah's 20 years as a business executive will help you think like an entrepreneur with expertise, energy, and attitude. Tune in to Business Game Changers Mondays at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Get ready to rid yourself of all that is weighing you down and holding you back from living the life you want for yourself. Coming Clean, The Art of Transparency with Catherine Moss is a hit show for women in recovery who are ready to live life on purpose. Tune in and let Catherine help you live your truth one day at a time. Live each Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Get into it for 2016. Do you want more prosperity, clarity, energy, and balance in your life? Join Lynn Brown now for one of her amazing workshops, each focusing on a key part of living your best life. For more information and to register for one of these amazing workshops, visit lynnbrownevent.com. That's lynnbrownevent.com. And get into it this 2016 with Lynn Brown.
Hi, this is Leslie Fontaine, and my show is Sheer Alchemy on TransformationTalkRadio.com. When we're bogged down with our emotions, the hardships that plague us in our relationships, at work, our finances, we literally can't see the higher plane where we could be operating from. Tune in to Leslie Fontaine, Sheer Alchemy on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Welcome back to Voices of Women. I'm Kris Steinnes, and we're talking with Mary Morony. She's the author of Done, Growed Up. Now, Mary, do you have where can people find your book? And I don't know if you have a website or where people can learn more about this trilogy.
I do have a website. It's marymorony.com, and that's MaryMorony.com. And the book's available at Amazon, in a paperback and a Kindle version, and an audio version is also available on iTunes. And if you want, you can go to your local bookstore and ask them to order it for you, and they can do that too.
Yeah, that's great. Support the local bookstores. I like that. Well, we're in our last segment. We've been talking a lot of aspects about the book and some of the issues and the characters. I know you're worried of giving away the story, but we really haven't given away anything. We haven't told any secrets so not to worry. I recommend people to read it. I think it's an excellent book. I loved reading it. I've loved reading about people and their stories and it's a lot of good characters in here to get attached to. So the fact that you have a third book coming up, and I missed the first one. I was just sent this book and had time to read this one. But you said the third one in the trilogy. What's the name of that? And you've already written it?
Yeah, the book's finished. It's called If It Ain't One Thing, and it's set in 2008. With the same family, and the reason I brought it forward so far is because I wanted to make the point that we're all still. I mean, it's life. It's not about eras. It's not about there's life goes on. Problems continue, and people ebb and flow, and they get over some things and create more problems for themselves. And it's pretty much what life's all about.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
given it's
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it, too, can stand alone, but I have to say they really do well together.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, being it's set in 2008, is there still, is Ethel still involved in the family? Is it still, obviously probably the same characters, but now we're like 40 years later. We're probably going into the next generation of family and kids.
Yep, we are. We have another generation to deal with, and all of the aspects of that. There's a lot of flashbacks in it. Ethel is still involved in the story. Jenny and Joe are still involved in the story, and it just continues. And from what I'm told, it's the best one yet.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. So when is this coming out?
Next, maybe late winter.
Okay. So it gives lots of time for people to read the first two. So, what else do you want to share about the book? I mean, one of the things, I think we touched on a little bit, but there's aspects about money in the book, and what does that represent?
I have such a peculiar attitude about money. I have 4 children, three of whose fathers died when they were young. And so because their fathers died when they were young, they inherited money from their fathers, and it grew and because they couldn't touch it and they didn't get it until they were older, they all came into a pretty good amount of money. And then I have a 4th child whose father didn't die, and she has to work. And she grumbles a lot about the fact that her siblings all have money and she doesn't. And I like to remind her that she does have a father. And she says, yeah, I know. But it's an interesting thing about money and how it can take away. I mean, money can be a blessing and a curse. It can be the most wonderful thing that ever happened to you, and it can be a real pain in the neck. And my children have all worked or have lived through those aspects of money. And so I don't have your typical everyday, idea about money. I don't necessarily think it's a great thing, and I don't think it's a bad thing either. So that's where money comes from in my vantage point.
Mm-hmm. But there is that difference between, you can feel it in the story between, Ethel and Early and what they have, and kind of that difference of being in a household with money that can afford a maid and all that, and then go to the maid's household, and that different living experience
But the thing that's interesting in the book, at least to me, in my perspective of it, is the household that has the money isn't necessarily the happiest of the households.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good message, yeah.
Yeah, Ethel and Early don't have as much material stuff, but Ethel and Early have relationships that a lot of people would, be over the moon about. So I don't know. There's abundance. Abundance is in all kinds of things. There's lots of money, but you can have a lot of money and it doesn't do you any good, which Joe points out at one point, where he feels helpless even though he has money. And then Jenny comes from a place of being privileged, but has a roof over her head that's pretty swish, and her friend doesn't. But who's the happier of the two there? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and we see that in other countries too. I've traveled around the world, and I we compare we have such riches here and live well, and the rest of the world doesn't, and they're lacking. It's not this attitude they're lacking, but when you go to those countries, you find out, you get the sense of they're happy.
I was in Africa once, and I met a man who was lamenting the fact that he didn't have the things that we had here, and I felt like we had infected them with a disease. Mm-hmm. And I was embarrassed and upset about the fact that he had so much more. He doesn't need a washing machine and dryer.
Yeah, there's that desire to be like America and have everything, and that's unfortunate if they're not seeing what their blessings are. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Mary.
Thank you so much, Kris. I enjoyed it.
Yes, well, everybody check out our website. It's Mary Morony, MaryMorony.com. Check out her book, the Done Growed Up, and Apron
Springs Trilogy.
Apron Springs Trilogy, and the next book coming out too. And so, it's good reading. I always love a good novel, so it's a lot of fun. And I just want to share my book. It's an Amazon bestseller and award-winning book, Woman of Wisdom, Empowering the Dreams and Spirit of Women. And it's an inspirational book of exploring the divine feminine through many different voices. Women who've been at the Woman of Wisdom conference, participants, some of the co-creators, and art and poetry. And so it's a diverse expression of the divine feminine. And you can check that out on our website, womanofwisdom.org. It benefits Women of Wisdom, which is a nonprofit organization, and we're headed into our 25th year of our conference. It's going to be February 16th to the 20th, so stay tuned. We're just in our planning stages. It's going to be a fabulous celebration and doing some new things this year, and we're really looking forward to that. So this is Kris Steinnes. I'm so glad that you were with us for the hour on Voices of Women and listening to our show. And next week, I'm having Carrie L'Esperance is coming, and we'll be talking about I forget the name of her book. She has a brand new book. Sorry, I don't have it with me, and but that's going to be a great interview too. So stay tuned every Friday at 1:00. So have a great 4th of July weekend, everybody, and be safe.
You've been listening to Voices of Women with Kris Steinnes. Tune in each Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Voices of Women Today, radio with Kris Steinnes.